Gotta love live. Okay. All right. So, welcome again to Busy Boulevard, our profit planning workshop for 2024. This is the third part, no, second, so sorry, second presentation of our three-part free online workshop for the month of December. This is in tandem with the launch of our software. So excited. I cannot be more thrilled to say my profit planning software is officially launched and we are here. Make sure you stay to the end of this workshop for a free promo that you can share with your network. So, just as a reminder, today we are going to give you a slight introduction about Busy Boulevard. I'm going to help you hone in on a couple of areas of importance for focusing while you are trying to understand what you're going to do for the new year. We're going to talk about a few planning tactics. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And for time's sake, I'm not going to be able to address every single question that comes up, but so I will try. Okay. And if I don't get to them here in the chat, I'll definitely respond via email. So, who am I? I'm Noelle Curtis. I am the CEO and founder of Busy Boulevard. I'm a 10-year beauty industry professional, but I'm over 20 years in entrepreneurship. And Busy Boulevard was the joy of being able to transition out of the pandemic when the state of Illinois closed down all the beauty salons. Mine was not impervious to that. So my transition was into finally putting the time, the focus and energy into bringing this software to life. So we do financial analytics and it is appointment setting at its heart. It is industry agnostic. However, we've launched it within the beauty industry first because that's where I was for the past 10 years. But so grateful we already have beta trials going on other industries outside of that presently. And my pronoun is I. Ha, that's the new one because I'm like, yep, it's me, I. Okay. But so 2024, how do you feel about planning? A lot of times people get so nervous, so overwhelmed. But the one thing I always want to encourage people, one, be honest with yourself about where you are, understand where you want to go. Secondly, and then thirdly, be patient with yourself as you're going through that. Okay. But I always like to know if you had to describe your feelings when you think about planning for your future, what word would you use to describe it? I do business coaching, and oftentimes I hear people say, "Oh my gosh, I just don't know where to start. What am I supposed to do? There's so much information out here. Where do I start?" And so sometimes you can feel confused. Where am I going? What am I doing? But ultimately, you should feel confident that you've got this. You got this under control. And so I always like to know what people are feeling and how people are feeling because, one, it helps us level set expectations as you're moving through what's going on with your plan. And it'll help you move out of analysis paralysis. All right. Well, welcome, Rodney. I see you joined in. Thank you so much for being here. Helen, I see you're on the line as well. So thank you guys so much for joining in this morning. All right. So, where do you want to go? You know, a plan is a detailed proposal of things you're doing or things you're trying to achieve. So, you need to know where do you want to go? Who is going to be impacted by where you're going, right? Who are the people that are part of your plan? And how much time are you willing to commit to this plan? A lot of times people think, oh, this is just about me. But the honest truth of the matter is, a plan is not only about you, it is very much about other people in your life, be it immediately, right? Your immediate family, your immediate friends, but then it's also the customers that you plan on attracting and touching with your opportunity of what's going on. Okay. Trying to make sure my time is right here. But because there are so many elements to running a company and running a successfully profitable company, today I'm only going to hone in on 6 elements of that. Okay. I know it might sound like a lot, but this is really just a miniature snippet of what you're going to come across as you're starting a company. And so these are just some things that I have come to discover over the years that a lot of people don't touch on in a formulaic process, but it really is the underlining that links your company activities together. Okay, so this is where these 6 areas of focus that I like to focus on to make sure individuals, as they're starting their companies, have clear understanding. There's obviously so much more to running a company, but you got to start somewhere. Right. So, again, my goal is to get you past analysis paralysis, to get you focused on what you want to do for 2024. There's no time like now to take an assessment of where you are, what you've accomplished for the past year. But more importantly, let's do forward thinking. Where is it that you want to go? Okay. If you're trying to go someplace you've never done, I'm sure you've heard it before, you have to do some things that you've never done. All right. So that's what we're going to focus on today. Making sure you understand some company structure aspects. How do you create your financial plan? How do you address the service menu? Like, what product or service will you be offering? What customers do you need to have in your pipeline? Some marketing, and then above all, tracking. And throughout this, I'll also sprinkle in some information about the software, of course. So before we get started, I think it's important when you take a journey, right? You take a pause and take a breath. So I always say, let's inhale, hold it, exhale. Okay. You have to center yourself because, again, you're going someplace you've never gone. And so you're going to have to start doing some things you've never done. What I want you to do, though, is make sure you have a pen and a piece of paper or a pencil, something where you can take notes. And then also, again, if you have conversation or questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat. No problem, Ronnie. Thank you for that message. All right. When we talk about company structure, now I'm based here in Illinois. I know we have this information going out across the social sphere. So that touches wherever you might be. But the thing you need to know and ask yourself is, what you're doing a hobby, or is it really a company? All right, because they really are two different things. A hobby is just something like you do for yourself, your own spare time, maybe some friends, maybe some people in your family know that you're doing it, and it's okay, right? It's just something for you. Or you really want this to be a company. There's no judgment over here, whichever way you lean in that regard. The biggest thing for me is, one, what do you want to do with this? Where do you want this to go? Right. And because of that, you need to determine if you're going to leave this as a hobby. Great. You default as a sole proprietor. There's no financial cost for you to go and start a company. But if you're trying to hire employees, if you want to give yourself a paycheck, there's some other practical and important legal structures that you have to have in place. And so, one, you need to determine the structure that you're going to choose. Now, I have a couple of little price points here. If you're starting an LLC in Illinois, it's about $150. And then there's a $75 annual fee. But if you're starting a corporation, it's $150 as well. But then there's annual fees that vary based on how many stocks and options that you set up within your company. So we're not going to go into detail about that. But you need to know, right? What is the startup cost for you starting this company? And a lot of this, for some of you all who have started a company, your startup costs get overlooked and you think, oh, someone's going to pay for that. The truth of the matter is, this is where your money comes out of your pocket and goes towards this hobby turning into a company, or this company turning into a legal entity structure. Whichever way you decide, you want to keep those documents together, keep them in a safe place so that you can easily access them when you need them. So if you're trying to start a bank account for your company, you'll need your corporate entity, your entity information. You'll need an EIN number. You'll need a contact number. These are just foundational pieces of starting a company that you cannot escape. And I've had conversations with people who say, well, I don't think I need to do all of that, but I'm going to serve this food to somebody. And I'm like, no, you can't serve food without protecting yourself, right? You want to make sure you're protected. The 3 things you want to remember, though, is like wherever you start with this, you want to keep it going, because if you stop keeping your entity structure together, you'll start incurring fees to try to reinstate it. And it can turn into a financial burden if you're not preparing for it and thinking of it and incorporating it into the plan. Your annual fee for whether you're an LLC or a corporation will always be due every year. It keeps your company alive. Okay. So remember that. So the first thing you want to decide in what you're doing, if this is not a hobby, right? That's okay. But if this is transitioning out of a hobby, you need to make sure that the legal structure that you choose helps you move this forward. The second thing you want to think about is the financial plan, right? There are financial implications. There's money that you will have to contribute to this. There's no way around it. I have been in business for over 20 years and I have never seen anybody just start somebody's company for them, right? I've never seen anybody write a check to somebody who has not put their own money up. It's just like poker, right? Big bank, little bank. You have to put your own money up. Which one are you going to do? You have to do it. I like to remind people that there's a framework called the Now framework. So when you're creating the financial plan, this is the heart of it, right? This is where it can be really overwhelming for people because a lot of people are afraid of math. But there's some simple things you can do when you're coming to a financial plan. The first thing you need to do is assess your personal budget. Now, within your personal budget, if you use the Now framework, you're going to itemize and look at the things that are necessary for life. And a lot of you all, you've heard the Maslow's hierarchy of needs or, things of that nature. So what are the things that you absolutely need that are necessity and necessary for your life to function? You have to have a place to live, right? You have to have food. You have to, well, transportation can be optional, but how do you move around, right? But those are the things that are like necessity: food, shelter, clothing. You can't get away from that. Those are the things you need to know how much you have to pay yourself to make those things function in your life. You also have obligations, things that you are obligating yourself to. Your rent is an obligation of shelter. You can't get away from it. Or your mortgage, it's an obligation for you to have access to that place where you're laying your head. And for your company, that obligation could be your booth rent, it could be your salon suite rent, it can be the actual mortgage for a salon. It could be if you're doing a mobile service and the car that you're choosing to transport your tools in. Those are things that you are obligating yourself to. Sometimes you'll take out a company loan for that, and it's okay. You just want to make sure that in this financial plan, you have the cash flow to pay and meet all of these necessities as well as obligations. The last framework in the Now lens is the wants. These are those things that you can go without, but who wants to never go on vacation, right? Who wants to not be able to buy the certain brand of food or clothing that they want? These are the things that are more like excess, if you will, if you think about it, right? You don't necessarily need them, but you want them. But I always liken this to say, hey, don't go into the want category until you've handled your needs. But with this, how do you come together with the financial plan? Once you've itemized and identified those elements of the Now framework for your personal budget, you then turn around and do the same thing for your company budget. What are the necessities and the obligations versus the wants of you starting this company? And when you put those two together, it'll really help you come up with a better financial plan on how you're trying to run this company. One, because if your company, right, is going to compensate you, you need to know, well, how much did this company need to compensate me for? And I always like to remind people that your company, when it compensates you, your compensation is an expense of the company. So, in the framework of a financial plan, the revenue that your company generates or the income that your company generates from selling your products or services, when you take out those expenses, and those expenses are those necessities, those obligations, and even some of the wants, you're going to be left with a profit or a loss in your company. But the biggest thing I don't want you to miss is that you personally are an expense of your company. Your company should be able to cover your personal budget. If you're really working this to make it beneficial from a financial perspective for you, right? You want your company to generate enough revenue to take care of its necessities and its obligations and its wants, bearing in mind that you are an expense, you are a necessity and an obligation of the company. So I love to blend that together so people can really then see and set up a framework of, hey, what do I need to compensate myself? For me, I'll be honest, this was a light bulb moment when I started my company, and I realized like I was all this money was coming in, but I was paying expenses, I was paying staff, but I wasn't really paying myself, right? I drank the old Kool-Aid of every penny that comes into the company should go back into the company. And that's not true. That's absolutely a falsehood. Okay. Every penny that comes into your company should be absolutely allocated within a financial plan to make sure that you are taken care of from a personal perspective. Because let's be honest, that's one of the reasons you start a company, right? Is to meet your personal financial obligations, those personal necessities, those personal wants. And so if you have an absolute clear financial plan, then it's easier for you to move forward with whatever you're trying to achieve in the new year. But again, the now framework, necessary, obligations, and wants for your personal life as well as for the company. And that'll get you to a very, very clear picture of how your company needs to function on a day to day financial basis. Now, within our software, we have on your dashboard, we have an element where you can input 8 different categories of financial spending from your personal to your company expenses, and you'll be able to create your own unique budget, right? Everyone's budget is different. Everyone's decisions and desires of what's a necessity versus what's an obligation could be different, but there are some absolute universal needs, and your dashboard comes pre programmed with that. So you're able to then take this software and adjust it for your own life, so that that's one of the benefits of using our software, right? You've got universal needs, they're pre-programmed into the software. You don't have to sit and scratch your head and figure out, well, how many of these things do I need? What's real for me? What's not? You're able to download it so that you can keep a running tab on your actuals versus your projected planned financial expenses. So excited about this part of our platform because there's no other platform in the US, I'm venture to say in the world right now, that blends these two elements together, where you're able to put your personal budget and your company budget together to get a better picture and understanding of what your company needs to do from a service revenue perspective. Now, the third element of your plan is the service menu or your products. What is it that you are offering to the world, right? Now, there are things that you had in mind that you wanted to do when you started this company. And then there are things that you can actually do yourself versus those that you'll have to bring people in to do for you. But the other thing that's going on is what the customers are going to ask you to do, right? And in this regard, I always like to remind people time is your frenemy, all right? You have a set amount of time in the day to do these services or render these products to your customer. You have to be very clear about your process. You have to be very clear about what you need to do to improve your time within administering those services. And you want to make sure that you then are taking note of what should be added next, right? Because sometimes you have, again, what you can do and what you want to do, but then you have what the customers are asking of you to do. Now, our platform, it does come preloaded with over 50 services, particular, again, to the beauty industry. We have in beta a few other industries that we are already preloading services that are relatable to your industry, but you have the element where you can create it and tweak for your own use and purposes. But things that you want to think about as you are creating your service menu, because you want to get very crystal clear on your service. What products and services are you offering? You want to know that because you have to understand, can I do all of these services right now? Or do I need to add them slowly, gradually get up to all the service offerings that you want? Reason being is because you have to take into consideration your time, the inventory that's associated with it, and how many customers that you can actually service. If you are a solo entrepreneur, that's okay. But how does your service menu reflect the ability for you to input your time into that? Okay, you have to be very mindful of your time, the services that you're offering, what customers are asking you for. All right. The other thing you want to be mindful of in your service menu is, although you might have created a list of service offerings, you also have to be listening to your customers to see what they're asking for as well. Sometimes, as entrepreneurs, we know that there's this need, there's this void, and we're here to fill it. But as you start talking and interacting with your customers more and more frequently, you'll hear them ask for other things. Now, for me, it was a rule of thumb that until about 4 or 5 customers asked me about a particular service offering, that's when I would do more research and see if it was beneficial or profitable for me to add it to the menu. Because oftentimes, just because one person wants it doesn't mean all the other people are going to want it. And so it might not even benefit you to have these additional services. So you want to be very mindful of your service or your product offering menu. The fourth element you want to think about are your customers. Now, I like to say the customer is not always right, but they should absolutely be satisfied. And the reason I say that is because customers will try, they will try and try and try and try to make what you offer work for them because they want to work with you. However, if that's not what you offer, it's not what you offer. And it's okay, right? They're not your ideal customer. It's okay because your ideal customer will show up. The more you crystallize the service menu that you offer, the more you hone in and become more dedicated and controlled with your time, the more your customers will start to show up. But there are some things you want to think about when you're dealing with customers because customer service is crucial. Customer service, outside of pricing, customer service is usually like the second thing that people relate to decide if they want to continue to come and interact with you and your product or your service. So, how do you treat your customers? That's part of your customer overall satisfaction. Are you inviting them into a workspace that makes them want to come back and be around you? I've been in some salon settings where it's just disgusting. I mean, like wax all over the floor, literally wax on the walls, right? And it's like, oh, the wax pots are so gross and grimy. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get, disrobed in this room because it's just not an inviting place. Your bathrooms, how inviting are your bathrooms? Because that's important as well. And lastly, right, you want to, well, it's not last, but how do you ask your customers to come back? Rebooking is key for your company's success and what you're doing. So once you find that ideal customer, how are you connecting with them? And how are you asking them to come back? The biggest thing you want to know is, how many customers can you realistically handle in one day? Again, this goes back to the service menu and your customers. That time is your frenemy, right? If you don't have enough time to handle as many customers as you think you can, it's okay. How can you respect your customer enough and yourself enough and your company enough to say, you know what? This is what I need to do to be able to handle this many customers with the services that I'm offering. This really is some logical flow of thinking, but oftentimes people don't, we don't think about how this reflects with our customer activity, right? You respect your customers when you respect their time. Period, point blank. If you're given the best service offering you can or the best product you can develop and your customers are coming back, that shows a sign of respect. They respect what you do and you respect them for coming to spend their money with you. You cannot have a company without customers. Are you meeting that customer for their need or for a desire? Because some things that we offer are really more so need based service offerings, but a lot of them really are desire based service offerings. I mean, if I'm being honest, bottled water is a desire, right? Because you can get water out of the tap. right? So you can meet a need for a customer with tap water. But if you desire to have this beautiful bottled water product, you're meeting a need with the desire folded in on top of it. But you want to see, what are you offering as an incentive for your customers to keep coming back and working with you? It's important. Have you identified your top 20% of customers that come and do business with you? And how are you treating them? But in that 80%, how are you treating them? Right? I don't care if a customer only comes to see me once. That one interaction, I want it to be the best interaction they have. So if and ever they want to come back to me again, I know that I've left the best impression as possible for them. I've left the door open for it. But in your plan for 2024, you need to identify how many customers do you need to come through your pipeline to make that financial plan that you coordinated and created to make it actually work and come together. All right. So you have to have your company structure. You have to have an understanding of the service menu that you're going to offer. You have to be very mindful of the customers that you're interacting with. Now, in our platform, of course, we give you a place to track your customer activity. So your dashboard will help you keep track of all of this. How many appointments have your customers seen you for? It automatically creates as soon as you share your booking link in your customer book service with you. It automatically starts to track this. Okay. And also, I want to add, if you are migrating from another booking system onto our system, we can upload your client list right now at no charge. In 2024, it will be a charge. But for right now, there's no charge for us to migrate your customers off of whatever booking platform you're currently using and onto ours. Now, the track record of whatever you've used before will not transfer over. However, we can still make sure that their information is prepared and ready to start tracking in our system on your dashboard. So you'll be able to track everything from the services that they have had with you, if they've missed appointments, if they've been on time for appointments. You'll be able to see if you are offering classes, have they signed up for classes? Do they have referrals that they sent your way? That's important. And then also any other notes and pertinent information about keeping up with your customer. This creates itself for your customer in your dashboard on the Busy Boulevard platform. So customer service, customer tracking is key. It goes hand in hand. So necessary to make sure that your customers are happy. And you can see that with their track record. Now, here's a big one. Marketing. When you are doing all of what you're doing for your company, there is the marketing. You can't get away from marketing. Marketing has a lot of little elements in it, as you can see, just like everything else. I like to think of running a company as like creating your own little set of nesting dolls, right? You have all these elements that sit inside of themselves. Marketing is one of the biggest elements of running your company, but it has so many little elements in and of itself as well. I mean, each one of these topics that we're talking about, right, has unique elements underneath to support them. But marketing, I find, can be one of the most robust and intimidating outside of just creating that financial plan. So here's some steps. Again, now these steps you can actually apply to any part of what we've talked about, from your customers, your service menu, well, not necessarily your company identity, but still. So the first thing you're going to do, remember that marketing is a set of activities conducted by your company to communicate the products, the goods, or the services that you currently offer to your customers, or even that you'll futuristically offer to your customers. And you're talking to current customers as well as potential customers in the future. So it's not just one size fits all when it comes to marketing. You have multiple conversations going on with multiple segments of people. And so you want to be mindful of those elements when you're creating your marketing plan. So for this example, let's say you are looking to generate, right, the goal. You have a goal, right? You want to have a clearly established financial goal. You want to generate X amount of dollars by hosting events. And to do that, you're going to purchase ads. Now, where can you purchase ads? As you can see, all these little junior bubbles up here. You can have printed material, which please do not sleep on printed material. Every time I'm out now and about, I have flyers about my software. It's just inevitable. In every way I can, I will find a way to lead that conversation back to the fact that I have a new software, and I am not ashamed of it, right? I'm the number one salesperson, number one marketing person marketing this software. And you should be as well with your company. If you have a company and you're afraid to talk about it and you're afraid to promote it, there's deeper questions that I would have for you there. But you want to have some printed material. You can have videos that you're using to showcase your product or service. You can do social media feeds. You can have podcasts. And nowadays you can do cross podcast promotion, right? If someone that you know has a podcast and their topics that align with what your product or service offers, why not have a conversation and do cross marketing for those podcasts? You have billboards. Billboards now have become so inexpensive to actually secure. I'm surprised, actually pleasantly surprised at the affordability of billboards, particularly the digital ones that you see now that will flip through while you're driving down the expressway. You can also do direct to customer. So direct to customer, I would equate this as like hands-on in the field sales, right? You're talking directly to the person that you want to interact and do business with. So that's literally just a conversation. And even starting conversation is marketing. You can do trade shows. You should have a list of trade shows that impact your industry that you can go to, one as a general attendee, but also look to see if there's opportunity for you to be on a panel, for you to have actual trade show display. So there's different ways that you can interact with the trade show. But if you're going to a trade show, you absolutely need to have that printed material. They go hand in hand. Your website is a significant part of marketing that a lot of people overlook. If your website is hard to navigate, a lot of people will get turned off by that. And lastly, you can also look at television. Now, again, these are just 8 little segments of marketing that you can have in one large, robust plan. You don't have to do them all. You need to assess what you have from a financial perspective to create this budget. So the first thing you're going to do, right? You got this goal that you want to achieve, and now you need to put a timeline and a budget to that. Even with this overall financial plan and your profit planning for 2024, yes, we are establishing a full year, 2024. And what is the budget that you're looking to execute? However, you still have to benchmark that, right? In order to get the benchmarks, you need to figure out what action items you need to take and activate to make sure that your plan actually happens. So, step one is establish the goal, the timeline, and the budget. Second, you're going to start listing out the action items that you need to complete. In that, you'll also be able to see who else you need to have involved to make sure that this marketing is going to come together. If you're not a graphic designer and you're not creative, that's okay. There's so many different tools and resources out here for you to replace yourself within that process. But you need to figure out who needs to be involved, whether it's the designer, the ad purchaser of whatever of these little junior bubbles that you're picking out to incorporate into your marketing plan. You need to know who needs to be involved. With that, that will help you discover a resource list. The resource list will assess what you presently have access to and what you're able to execute. It will also help you see, again, by who's needed and what other tools you need to have in place. You'll be able to then have this real robust resource list that you're able to then go in and say, okay, well, I don't have creative skill set, but I can hire someone here who can interact with the uploads necessary onto the platform to make sure our billboard comes to life. And lastly, all you're going to do is execute. So 5 steps, but as you can see, there's all this nesting of activity within each one of these steps. But as long as you're able to understand and have a real, stair-stepped approach to it, having a marketing plan, although it can take some time to create one, I always say planning is the, the longest part of the actual process, right? Creating the plan of where you want to go is usually the most lengthy process of the entire process. Then once you go and execute, you're like, oh, well, I spent a couple of days or a couple of weeks getting this plan together, and then it just starts to flow. So, yes, step one, establish your goal. Step two, list out the action items you need to complete. Step three, identify who else needs to be involved. Step four, identify the resources that you need to execute this plan. And then five is simply execute. And that's it. You cannot be afraid of starting your company and moving your company forward. In any one of these, whether it's that financial plan, whether it's that service menu, whether it's that customer base, you cannot be afraid to move forward with this, okay? Because that's at the end of the day, all of what I'm giving you, even if this sounds repetitive, my question is, if this is repetitive for you and you've heard this from, I don't know, whatever workshop you've been at before, have you started doing it? Because until you actually start doing it, it's all theory, right? It's all theory until you put it into practice. And that's when it becomes practical and hands on in real life, and it starts to come to life, and you're able to reassess as you go along. The last part of this is you want to track all these activities. Again, when you start what you're doing, when you start making your plan, you got to keep going. You can't stop. I mean, and if you do stop just because you're tired, it's okay. But follow this through on one goal first. All right. Write out the activities that you are tracking. So you're tracking your budget, if you're tracking your customers, if you're tracking your service menu, or if you're tracking your marketing, you need to have a place where it's written out. You need to know in your budget, what is your planned budget versus your actual. That's why, within our software, we give you the element to download that budget, because you want to know, what did I plan for versus what I actually achieved. And it's nice if you are having financial activity within your company on a daily basis. You should really be pulling this report daily. I mean, I don't know how many of you have ever worked in retail. I used to work at several, clothing stores, and every day at the end of the day, you open the cash register and you close the cash register. You have this monetary tracking system that happens every single day. Well, your company is no exception, particularly if you have financial activity every day. What did you plan to earn versus what you actually earn? You should be aware of it day to day. And if not day to day, if that sounds too overwhelming, at least week to week. But why I recommend doing day to day is because you get in a habit and you start to form these habits that help make your company grow. All right. So that's from an earnings perspective. But then let's talk about it from a spending perspective. What did you plan to spend within your budget versus what you actually spent? Oftentimes, if you don't have a plan of what you want to spend, it's quite easy for you to overspend. Or you are able to decide whether you actually need to spend what's being put in front of you, right? You can make more realistic decisions about your spending when you have a budget that is clearly created, associated with an objective. Okay, now you're not haphazardly trying to execute. But you absolutely need to know what you plan to spend versus what you actually spend when it comes to your budget. When it comes to your customers, you want to know, how many customers do you have? More importantly, you want to know how much are each one of your customers spending. The lifetime value of your customer is so crucial. How long do you plan on this customer being a customer of yours? When we had our salon open, we had customers that were with us from the day we opened until the day we closed 9 years later. And that's a tremendous thing in the beauty industry, where people get flighty and they want to move. And, but what are you doing again to attract your customers, to keep your customers happy? But then also, how are you increasing their spending habit? Because that's important. As the economy expands, your customer's ticket really should be expanding. And if you're nervous about your customers spending more money with you, Come sit and send with me for an hour, and I will get you past that fear of customers spending more money with you, right? That's what you want. You want customers to spend their money with you on a repetitive basis as much as possible. I mean, otherwise, why are you in business? Um, Within your customer tracking, you should know who are your top 20%. Now, this goes back to the Pareto's law where you have the 80-20 split, where 20% of your customers are impacting 80% of your company. And that's important for you to know. Who are the top 20% of your customer base? Why is that important? Because those are the ones you should be asking referrals of. It's quite simple. If birds of a feather flock together, I want those birds that are spending money to come and flock over towards my company. And and you should be okay to ask for a referral from your top 20 customers. And with that, I will importantly add, I don't ask every customer for a referral. And I am not ashamed to say it. And it's not an insult to the customer, but if I have a customer, which I actually did, I had a customer who would constantly find something um, to complain about. And it wasn't even us. She was just literally, it was just part of her nature. She would just find something to complain about. She would complain because she was late. She would complain because she was early. She would complain because she couldn't find a color that she wanted when we had 50 colors for her to choose from on the nail selection table. So you just can't make people happy. Not all of them. I don't want any more of those type of customers. I don't want unsatisfiable customers. Okay, so no, I'm not asking you for a referral, even though you do come back consistently. That's customer drain, and customers can be very draining when they are coming to spend their money with you, and it's okay, right? But again, it's how you handle your customer service. Do we make her feel welcome? And does she continue to come back? Yes. But did I ask her for a referral? No, because I was afraid she would send me more people that had the same attitude as she did. And that's just too draining, particularly when you think about your time. Customers will drain you. Okay. You're spending time with them. So you want to be mindful of that and make sure that there's this good synergy to feed within your customer base. When you're tracking your menu, you want to look at what's your most requested service. This is important. What's your most requested service or your most requested offering? Because you want to be mindful of that. How can you make that service offering even better? How can you enhance it? Or how can you make sure that everybody in your customer base has experienced it? Right? The sooner you identify your number one requested service, the sooner you can identify a nice marketing plan for that service to make sure all of your customers are experiencing it. But again, within that menu, you want to think about the timing of the services that you're activating, and executing. Oh, excuse me. I don't talk a lot this early in the morning. But you want to think about the timing that it takes for you to execute the items on your menu. And now this menu could be, again, products or services, whatever it takes. If it's a service base, you want to think about your time. How can you improve your time? That will come down to you reevaluating and improving your processes. You also want to, within your menu, be mindful of the inventory that's associated with your services, because this is going to directly impact your budget. If you have purchased an item and in that item it says you should be able to provide X amount of services from it, you'd be able to now track this, right? This is the importance of tracking. If I bought just a prime example, we used to use a gallon of foot scrub, we would buy it wholesale, right? And that gallon, it says you should be able to execute at least 60 pedicures. So what did I do? I made sure we had 60 pedicure cups of products separated out. And you know what I was able to track? Customers that came through and offered the service. I was even able to track and identify team members who were stealing. I hate to say it, but if you don't have a hand on and a thumb on that inventory control, your inventory will go right out of the window. And you're like, wait a minute, I spent this much with the anticipation of this return, right? I actually plan to receive this much coming back. So now I'm able to identify gaps in what's going on. And true enough, it was a team member that was still in product, so that they can do the services on their own because we had a nice quality product. So those are things you want to be mindful of, right? Your menu can be tracked internally from a comparison of the services that you are administering. And you want to be mindful of those inventory costs. You'll also be able to see what inventory is not turning over in your menu. So, tracking your menu is not necessarily for what's being sold, it's also for what's not being sold. So, you want to be mindful of this as you're running a profitable company toward that financial goal for 2024. And also, you want to make sure that you're tracking your marketing. Now, marketing activity tracking can be a little difficult if you don't have again a true understanding of what it is you're trying to achieve. But you want to have, even if it's as simple as a spreadsheet, right? But a lot of the tools that are out here now have reports that are built in so that you should be able to extract analytics out of your marketing activity. You need to know which marketing activity is doing the best. I mean, we're streaming this right now on 5 different platforms. So whether you're on my X, my Facebook, my LinkedIn, my Instagram, wherever you're seeing, oh, even Facebook or even the Zoom, so like wherever you're seeing this, at the end of this day, I will pull analytics on each and every one of the platforms because it's just part of running the company, right? So if you are executing a vision and you are putting all these marketing activities into play and you're spending your dollars, you want to make sure that the return on investment is is um, is what you're anticipating it to be. And there's some, different metrics you can check, but this all ties back to that original budget that you created. What is the company financial plan? What is the plan of revenue that you're trying to achieve? You have to understand that so you can tie it all back. All right. So, with your tracking of your activities, I want to make sure you're writing out the activities that you need to track. So, we are tracking um, customers, marketing, budgets, menu, right? You want to set a schedule for your tracking. There are so many moving parts. If you don't schedule a time for yourself to go back and analyze all these different elements, you will be overwhelmed and you will want to walk away from it. But again, for those of you where this is your first time running a company, which is a lot of where my followers fall, this is your first time running a company, it can feel overwhelming and it's okay. That's what I want to remind you. What you're experiencing is not abnormal. It is normal if you are a solo entrepreneur starting an endeavor and you don't have anybody to talk to and you don't have anybody who can give you a solid process for executing your vision, right? You are doing it already. So, congratulations, you already started the company. But when it really starts to get down to these uh, details, the details is one where you can lose money if you're not doing it. And also where you can lose motivation and enthusiasm for what you're doing. So I don't want you to get um, again, analysis paralysis. I don't want you to be discouraged about what you're doing. There was something in you that decided to start this company. And so now, as you're moving into another level and into another year of handling this company, how can you make it better? How can you make it stronger? How can you bring all these activities together to keep you moving forward with the momentum that helps keep you encouraged about what you're doing because your customers can feel it. If you're not happy about what's going on with your company, your customers will eventually know. All right. Lastly, I want to say you want to be consistent with tracking your activities. I mentioned set a schedule for your tracking. Maybe it's every Monday, right? I'm doing this on Mondays because usually within the beauty industry, this is a good time for you to go take care of yourself. But then also you have to take care of your company. Okay. So whether it's at the beginning of the week, in the middle of the week, or at the end of the week, you have to be consistent about whatever your tracking process is. You got to start it. You have to keep it going, and you cannot stop. All right. This is one of the other sides of running a company that people don't talk about, right? It's almost like cleaning a house. You can never stop cleaning a house because it's always there. As long as you have people coming into your home, right? And if that person is just you, you're always going to need to clean. Same way with the company. As long as you have company activities going, you're always going to need to track this activity. And if you are not, let's start today. Okay. And just remember, be consistent. Keep going. Don't stop. All right. There's no way around it. Okay. So as I mentioned, this is part of our promo launch, right? I hope you guys got some helpful information out of that. Hold on, I'm actually gonna go back to remember. So you are focusing on your company structure. You've talked about a financial plan, right? Your company structure. What am I? Am I an LLC? Am I a corporation? Am I an S corp? Am I selling shares? What am I doing with this company? Where do I want this company to go? It makes a difference with the company structure that you choose. The financial plan. We talked about it, having a personal budget, having a company budget, and bringing those two together. How you marry those two is important because that is going to help really move everything that you're doing forward. And with this, I'm gonna say a lot of people say, "Well, I want a six-figure company," and I'm like, "Okay, this is just me." It leads me to a whole lot of questions. Do you want a high six-figure company or a low six-figure company? And they're like, "Oh, hi." I'm like, "Okay, well, is this the company that is in a high profit, or is this your compensation, right? Is this the company paying you?" Because a lot of times people they think, "Oh, I have this company and every penny that comes into the company is mine." That's not true. If you're a sole proprietor, yes. But if you're an LLC, every penny that comes into that LLC is the LLC's. You, remember, are an expense of your company. So the company should be compensating you based on your personal budget. And you have to figure out your personal budget. Otherwise, it will turn into some faltering as you're going along through growing your company. You want to also review your service menu. What services or products are you offering? And you don't have to put it all out at once. Okay? I remember when we first opened our salon, we had a 3-page trifold menu. Day 1 when we opened. When we closed, we had gone through so many iterations of, this was working with the customers, this customers weren't ordering this. My service offerings could fit on the back of my business card. And I was absolutely okay with that because I had hit high profit margins. We had um, inventory under control, and it was just a better flow. So we went from like 15 to 30 service menu offerings to about 5. And they were 5 high priced, repetitive. People knew they could come to us and they could get that service with a great price, with a great time, repetitively, and they were booked in and they were locked in. All right. So your service menu is important. Your customers, again, so crucial. What is the goal for your customer base for 2024? You should have a goal. You got to have a goal for a customer base because if you got this financial plan, but you don't have the customers that are going to help you achieve it, it's a disconnect. So you have to bear in mind the customer. What's the lifetime value of that customer? How much are they spending each time they come to you? How frequently are they coming to you? These are some things you need to know about as you're planning for 2024. And above all, how are you marketing your company? How are you getting the word out? Whether it is through your social medias, whether it is through other people's social medias, through your activity, what marketing channels are you using to communicate the product or the service that you're offering so that you can attract more customers and so that you can also interact and communicate with the current customers that you have? So, marketing again, a multiple pronged conversation happening with multiple segments of customers. So you cannot forget that. And again, above all, you want to make sure that you are tracking everything along the way. All right. So, as I mentioned before, our software does help you with that. The Busy Boulevard platform, we have the profit planning element in there, and we have the customer tracking element, and you can track it all through your booking link for the month of January. So this runs until the end of December. We are offering a 25% discount for life. One of my advisors was like, "Why would you do that?" And I said, "Because I can. It's my company. I know my profit margins." So we are offering a 25% discount for life. but that's only till the end of the year. It's not coming back. I cannot make any promises that that will ever show up again. This is my give out because I'm excited and I want people to be successful in their companies. We also have our influencer brand ambassador program where you get 1 month free, but then it also translates into future incentives for using that promotional affiliate link code. So you get 1 month free with that influencer profile. And again, that ends at the end of the month. You cannot combine them. So don't try it. Okay. Don't ask. No, they cannot be combined. You have to pick one. We'll love you either way, and you'll get the support that you need with your account. What does that look like? Our commitment to you, if I am being 100% transparent, you all, I would love to see everybody on our platform at least compensate themselves 87,000 for the year. And one of my investors is like, "Well, Noelle, where did you get 87,000?" It's not in the poverty line, people. Okay, poverty is creeping up very quickly on people, and if you are not paying attention, and if you are not planning to outrun it or escape it, it will swallow you up and not care. When I was in college, there was one comment I will never forget from an instructor. She said, "It is easier for someone to fall out of a socioeconomic lifestyle than to cross over into one." And that, I believe, was part of the seed that was planted. Well, no, it watered the seed that had already been planted about how to live a more financially stable life. And that's also part of the genesis of this software, right? People need to be able to control their own financial activity with the skill set that they are learning. You're taking the time to learn this skill set. Take the time to understand how to profit from it. Okay. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and you're doing this in vain. So have a clear plan with it. So our commitment, again, help you achieve 87,000. That's paying yourself. So your pricing, your service menus, all your activities should be aligned to help you achieve that. What we also do, social media features of you, so you have access to our social platform. We do quarterly and annual raffles just to highlight and encourage you for continuing to move forward with your company activities. And when you are a subscriber, you get access to our business resource library. So now this is a combination of years of tools, customer service scripts. For my beauty service providers, we have a robust protocol menu that is amazing. Everything from recipes, if you want to create some of your own products, to create your own products in the treatment room, not for retail, I'll say that. But we do have a business resource library that you would have access to. And you will get a CEO bi-weekly call check-in with me, yours truly. I love to talk to people and know that they are actually moving forward with their ideas. I'm not here to tell you whether you have a bad idea, because I don't believe there's a such thing as a bad idea. I believe there's a such thing as a poorly executed idea. And so I will be a sounding board if you don't have anyone that you can truly talk to through your business ideas and how you're thinking and processing these things through. You get access to my brain. And then also we have merchandise discounts. So I fell into poker over the over this year. I love it. It's just, I want all the chips. I do. And even my children are learning. My daughter is 10 and she's learning how to play poker because it's an important game. And I want to, shout out Jenny Just for introducing me to it and really like pushing and advocating for women to learn more about poker and just the strategy of business there. But so you, on our website for our merchandise, we have this poker based theme on the Busy Boulevard merchandise, but then there's also some traditional Busy Boulevard merchandise there. But again, our promo code for the end of the year, we have the 2023 influencer, and there is a gap in our promo code. So 2023 space influencer, or I think you have to push them together. But either way, 2023 influencer and 2023 launch. The 2023 influencer code will get you 1 month free from this year. And then the promo code 2023 launch will get you a 25% discount for life. And you guys, that can apply to any of our subscription levels. So we have a quarterly, a monthly, and an annual subscription option. So it would behoove you if you did the 25% discount for life on an annual fee. win-win for everybody. But that is our time today. I want to remind you, your company is just like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets and the more it can expand. Okay. I'm living proof, you guys. I'm not just saying stuff just to hear myself talk. I'm giving you helpful insight that I have executed, implemented in my life, and it has allowed me to get here to where I am. And, we're already making international frameworks for the company. So I'm super excited about this. You guys, there's nothing stopping you from moving forward with your company except for you. All right. Your dream is absolutely possible. Excuse me. I'm so grateful to be a part of your journey. And I absolutely want to say thank you for spending some time with me this morning. You have my contact information. Look, you're on social. I respond to my socials. I schedule time to respond to my socials in addition to the social media team that I have. So it's not, I had to learn how to do that. I had to go out and say, okay, I'll be involved too. But thank you guys so much for being a part of this call this morning. We have one more for the end of the year. It is a repeat of this presentation and it is next Monday. So feel free to share the link with your friends who might be interested in learning more on how to create a plan for the new year and learning more about our software. Other than that, we will see you in the new year. I want to shout out Ms. Roberts' School of Beauty. We will be there making some presentations to her students this week. Our Educator Feeder program is growing. So super excited for this journey. I'm on it with you. Let's go have some fun. You guys enjoy the rest of your week.